I want them in the conference room the second they arrive, I tell my assistant, adjusting the collar of my blazer. In 10 minutes, my parents will walk into TerraVerde Innovations, my company, with their biggest client, unaware their estranged daughter is the one they're here to impress. Through the glass, I spot my mother already marching across the lobby, clutching her sleek digital portfolio like it's her crown. She has no idea it's about to shatter, just like her pride. To the outside world, I'm Evelyn Carter, 33, founder and CEO of a billion-dollar sustainable architecture firm. To my parents, Charles and Margaret Carter, pillars of San Francisco's old guard real estate, I'm still the disappointment who threw away a dynasty for dreams of dirt and solar panels. They think I failed. What they don't know is that I built something they can't even begin to understand, a future that doesn't need their permission. I grew up in a penthouse that felt more like a museum than a home, glass walls, steel furniture, and silence polished to perfection. My childhood was a series of lessons in legacy. Watch your father close the deal, Evelyn, my mother would say when I was barely tall enough to see over the desk. You'll take over someday. Every smile I gave, every grade I earned, was just another transaction. But the first time I saw a nature documentary on termite mounds, how they cooled themselves without machines, something inside me sparked. I started sketching buildings that could breathe, that could heal. When I showed my father my drawings, he didn't even look up. Cute, he muttered. My mother smiled that sharp, dismissive smile. You're a Carter, dear. Leave the art to artists. So I learned to hide my dreams. While they trained me to manipulate markets, I studied how to save them. While they built glass towers, I designed living ecosystems. And when I finally walked away, they called it rebellion. I called it freedom. Now they're about to pitch me, thinking I'm just another consultant with an eco-friendly gimmick. My mother's heels click closer. My father's voice, deep and commanding, carries through the hall. I take a breath and step toward the conference doors. They're about to learn that the daughter they dismissed built the empire they could never imagine. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every day. The breaking point came one evening during my senior year of high school. My father, Charles, had borrowed the family computer to check some financial statements. I barely noticed until I heard the sharp scrape of his office chair on the hardwood floor. Then his voice, low and cutting, called out, "Evelyn, get in here, now." He had found my secret. My browser history was filled with scholarship applications to the nation's top programs in sustainable architecture and eco-design. What followed wasn't just anger, it was something far deeper. My father wasn't furious simply because I had defied him. He was insulted. For people like my parents, trapped in the gilded cage of old wealth, children aren't individuals. We are reflections, extensions of the legacy they've built. My choices weren't just career decisions, they were public declarations that their dynasty, Carter and Hale Developments, was outdated and incomplete. His rage wasn't just rage. It was a narcissistic injury. His disappointment a shield to protect his pride. The yelling didn't last long. What came next was colder, far more frightening. He gestured for me to stand beside him. In front of me, he logged into every scholarship portal, using the passwords he demanded I give him for my own security. Click. Application withdrawn. Click. Submission deleted. Years of hidden work, of secret hope, vanished in seconds. My father didn't tear letters. He erased my potential with a click. He left my business school application for last. He hit submit. Then he turned to me, face like marble. "We don't build fantasies, Evelyn," he said, quiet and steady. "We build assets. You will go to business school." End of discussion. That night, staring at the ceiling of my meticulously decorated but cold bedroom, I understood my place. I wasn't a daughter. I was a rebellious asset that needed correction. I went to the business school they demanded, but I lived a double life. Something inside me broke that night. The part of me craving their approval froze. It was replaced with something quieter, sharper, far more dangerous, a plan. I used their money to build my real education. College became my strategic laboratory. Every finance course wasn't just about corporate ledgers, it was a study in funding models for high-capital green tech ventures. Every marketing assignment was a blueprint for a company I mentally called TerraVerde. I deliberately selected electives in environmental policy and sustainable supply chains, pieces of a puzzle my parents couldn't see. All they noticed was the 4.0 GPA and smiled, satisfied. They thought I was becoming a sharper version of them. They had no idea I was crafting the tool that would make their worldview obsolete. The real breakthrough came in my junior year when I met Professor Jonathan Reed. He wasn't just a teacher, he'd spent decades in sustainable development, delivering innovative projects across Europe and Asia. After a guest lecture, I lingered, showing him my sketches and secret business plans. He studied them, then looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. "Evelyn," he said, "your understanding of biomimicry and its practical application surpasses what I see even in professional circles. Why are you on the finance track?" So I told him everything: the family dynasty, the pressure, the deleted applications. He nodded slowly. "Family legacy is a strong anchor," he said. "It can stabilize or it can drown. Ultimately, you must choose whether to captain their ship or architect your own." Professor Reed became my mentor, connecting me with engineers, investors, and innovators. By the time I graduated, I had not just a business degree, they had unwittingly funded the birth of something much bigger. I had built a network. 2 weeks after graduation, an envelope arrived from Carter and Hale Developments, heavy cream, embossed with the company seal. A junior partnership. 6 figures. The keys to the kingdom. That same day, I accepted a humble position at a tiny sustainable building startup in Palo Alto. The salary barely covered rent for a shared apartment. That night, I told my parents at dinner. The silence was deafening. My father, Charles, called me ungrateful. My mother, Margaret, asked calmly if I was having some kind of mental breakdown. "It's just a phase," she offered. My father finally slammed his napkin on the table. "When you're done playing at hugging trees, our door is open. You'll come to your senses." I moved out that weekend. He didn't lift a finger to help. She called me naive. He said not to return until I was serious. So I didn't. For the next several years, I disappeared. I lived on caffeine and determination, learning every inch of the industry from the ground up. Supply chains, material sourcing, construction regulations, nothing was theoretical. I saved every penny. Combining my $150,000 life savings with a $900,000 angel investment from my first client, a tech CEO frustrated with glass and steel boxes who believed in my vision, I launched TerraVerde Innovations with $1.05 million. The first 2 years nearly killed me. A major supplier pulled out, terrified by my inexperience. Then a recession hit, and green projects were the first to vanish from corporate budgets. I worked 18-hour days, slept on a couch in our tiny office for 3 months straight. But we survived. We innovated. We proved sustainable architecture wasn't a fantasy, it was cheaper, smarter, and better than the old way. Today, TerraVerde Innovations is a 9-figure company. We are the leaders in sustainable corporate architecture. Our designs win international awards, and clients wait months for a consultation. And yet, after all that, a part of me still longed for their approval. Strange, right? To have built a $100 million company and still crave validation from the people who tried to stop you. Therapy gave me clarity. It's called the approval trap. When you grow up receiving conditional love, intermittent reinforcement builds a lifetime subconscious drive to finally earn that validation, not for who you are, but for the child who was told they weren't enough. My 9-figure company, my awards, my headquarters, all felt incomplete because the ghost of that conditional love was still in the room, waiting for my father to say, "You did it." I tried, one last time. I sent them an architecture magazine featuring me on the cover as an innovator to watch. My father replied with a single line, "Magazines are desperate for content these days." I invited them to the grand opening of our new Living Lab headquarters. They declined, prior engagement at the country club. The last time I saw them was at a family wedding. My mother, Margaret, was holding court with her friends. She gestured me over. "Oh, and this is Evelyn," she said, that familiar tight smile. "Still doing that green thing. Nice, you're employed as a glorified recycling blogger." A glorified recycling blogger, that's how she reduced a 9-figure company. That was the last time I tried. I finally let go. Their approval was never about me, it was always about them. And that brings us to today. Right now, I'm standing just out of sight in the alcove beside the main entrance of my headquarters. The Living Lab gleamed in the morning sun. I spotted the black sedan pull up to the curb. My chest wasn't racing. It was the perfect, terrifying calm. The door opened. My father, Charles, stepped out first, straightening the cuffs on his tailored suit. Then my mother, Margaret, elegant as ever, smoothing her skirt. Finally, Philip Ward, tall, sharp, the CEO of Ward Global. My team, under the impression this was just a prep run for a major new client, was waiting, but I asked them to hold back. This moment, I would handle myself. I could hear my mother's practiced laugh as she engaged Mr. Ward. "We're thrilled to show you our proposal," she said. "The Carter and Hale legacy is built on bold vision," she added, sweeping a hand toward the building. Mr. Ward nodded, glancing at the living green wall wrapping the facade. "Impressive. Your vendor seems competent." Then my mother sealed her own fate with that brittle laugh I knew all too well, the one that always came before a dismissal. "Oh, this? It's ambitious, I suppose," she said vaguely. "Our daughter, well, she's always been a disappointment. Left the family legacy to chase, tree hugger nonsense." Mr. Ward tilted his head, thoughtful. "My son did something similar. Became a marine biologist. Took me years to realize he was smarter than I was." Margaret missed the warning. "Well, being a glorified recycling blogger hardly counts as genius, but it's our burden to bear." That was the moment. I inhaled deeply, steadying myself, then stepped out from the alcove, walking directly toward them. I extended my hand, not to my parents, but to their client. My face calm, professional, bright. "Mr. Ward, good morning. Welcome to TerraVerde Innovations." Charles and Margaret froze. Shock etched their faces. My smile stayed fixed on Mr. Ward. "I'm Evelyn Carter, founder and CEO. We are thrilled to have you here." A sharp gasp escaped my mother. Mr. Ward's eyes flicked from me to my parents, and in an instant, he connected the dots. Margaret's hand, clutching her high-tech portfolio tablet, went slack. Her face drained of color. The tablet slipped, striking the polished concrete with a sharp crack. Glass shattered, scattering the Carter and Hale proposal across my lobby floor, their legacy, broken at my feet. I was in full control. My team, finally seeing my parents' expressions, stepped forward. We were flawless. I guided Mr. Ward through the Living Lab, real-time building data, water recycling systems, geothermal cooling, patented smart glass that tints automatically, cutting energy costs by 60%. My parents were silent. Utterly silent. Charles sat, jaw tight. Margaret looked small, diminished. The shards of her tablet were quietly collected by my assistant, Olivia, who shot me a sharp, supportive nod. I was in my element. I was no disappointment, no naive tree hugger. I was the expert here, and everyone knew it. As I concluded, Mr. Ward paused, studying me, then my parents, then back to me. Charles cleared his throat, attempting authority. As you can see, Philip, he said, voice strained, our vendor here is passionate. Carter and Hale believes in. Philip raised a hand, commanding silence. Charles, please. His eyes turned fully to me. Ms. Carter, he said, that was remarkable. I have a confession. I've been tracking TerraVerde innovations for 6 months. My parents leaned forward, desperate, as he continued, eyebrows raised in genuine admiration. This is news to me, Philip Ward said, voice steady, sharp. Your work on the Singapore project was groundbreaking. I knew immediately you were the person I wanted to lead our new global headquarters. He glanced at my parents. Charles, Margaret, I only agreed to review your firm's proposal to see if the old guard had any ideas, to see if you could compete with this. He gestured around the room. You couldn't, but ironically, you brought me exactly where I needed to be. He turned back to me, ignoring them completely. This meeting was just a formality. I'm not interested in the proposal your parents brought. I want a global contract with you. Let's have our teams discuss expanding this across our North American and European portfolio. It was a surgical strike, clean, professional, undeniable. My father's face went pale. My mother simply stared at the floor where her tablet had shattered. When Philip Ward was escorted to his car by my team, my parents remained. The vast sunlit lobby suddenly felt like a cage. Charles recovered first, straightening his tie, ever the strategist. Evelyn, this is extraordinary, he said, forcing a booming pride into his voice. We had no idea. Now that we see the scale of your operation, perhaps Carter and Hale can offer support. Connections, clients. The offer was so transparent, so self-serving, I nearly laughed. Support? I asked, my voice quiet, cold. Yes, we could elevate this together, they said. I finally looked at them. Really looked. Not as the titans of my childhood, but as frightened, overreaching people who had just lost. You called me a disappointment less than an hour ago, Mother, I said, my voice carrying to Philip Ward. You called me a naive tree hugger, Father. Charles started, anger flaring. It wasn't the heat of the moment. I interrupted. It was the truth. Your truth. For 10 years, you've called me a failure. A glorified recycling blogger. You deleted my future from a computer because it wasn't yours. Margaret's eyes glistened. We didn't understand. We always supported you. No, I said, finality ringing in my voice. You didn't. You didn't support me. You didn't believe in me. You didn't help me. I built this without you. I built this despite you. I picked up my own tablet. I appreciate the offer, but my client acquisition strategy works perfectly. We have a waiting list. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a global contract to prepare. I walked away, leaving them standing among the invisible shards of their legacy. The Ward global contract tripled our valuation overnight. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was the silence. Their rejection. The gilded cage they built forced me to create a world they couldn't control. Last month, I launched the TerraVerde Foundation. We're funding scholarships for young women in sustainable tech and architecture, seeding a new generation of innovators, the naive tree huggers who will change the world. And that brings me to you. This is a letter to anyone ever called a disappointment. To the black sheep, to those made to feel like outsiders in their own families, I see you. Your rebellion is courage. Your passion is purpose. Don't let someone else's limited vision define your sky. They call you a disappointment because you are building something they could never imagine. Let them talk. You keep building. If this story resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments.